At the start of the movie, we are introduced to a stunning island where a beautiful woman named Nora is singing at a party. The island's owner, Manuel, and his wife are also there, listening to Nora's performance. Captivated by her voice, Manuel offers her a job singing at the same club. Nora expresses interest but replies that she needs some time to think about it. Suddenly, a waiter named Nick arrives and accidentally spills wine on Nora. Witnessing this, Manuel becomes furious and, in a fit of rage, kills Nick with a dagger. Nora is horrified by the violence. Manuel then tells her that from now on, she will remain on the island. Fearing for her life, Nora agrees to take the job. In the next scene, we meet Mark and his partner, Phil, who are undercover officers living somewhere on the island. They are on a mission to arrest a killer and are currently waiting for a drug dealer. As they wait, they start talking about their personal lives. Phil reveals that he has a new girlfriend and describes how their relationship is going. Phil then asks Mark about his love life, and Mark shares that he once deeply loved his wife, but they are now divorced. Just then, the drug dealer they are waiting for finally arrives. Phil distracts the dealer with money, pretending to show him the drugs. Suddenly, the dealer pulls out a gun, attempting to rob Phil. However, both Phil and Mark quickly outmaneuver him, and together, they manage to knock him unconscious. At that moment, Mark receives a call informing him that his younger brother has passed away. Overwhelmed with emotion, he makes his way to the island. At the funeral, we learn that the waiter, Nick, was actually Mark's brother. The church pastor speaks about Nick, describing him as a kind-hearted person and lamenting the loss of such a good soul from their family. During the funeral, Mark encounters his ex-wife, Akila. Afterward, Mark heads to the police station, where he reunites with his old friend, Wayland. Wayland hands him Nick's case file, explaining that Nick's life was cut short under mysterious circumstances. Mark is shocked to discover that his brother, known for being gentle and non-confrontational, could be involved in any trouble. Wayland suggests that Mark should question the hotel owner for more information. Following this, Mark then visits his ex-wife, Akila, who is teaching karate to children. Together, they reflect on the memories they once shared. Mark gently asks Akila if she knows anything about Nick's death. She reveals that ever since Manuel arrived, everything on the island has changed. Manuel not only runs a drug business, but is also involved in shady activities. She adds that around the time of Nick's death, a new singer named Nora had just started performing and might have some information. Determined, Mark vows to avenge his brother's death. Mark then confronts Manuel in his office, demanding answers about Nick. Manuel claims he's deeply saddened by Nick's death, but insists he knows nothing about it. He suggests that Nick may have crossed paths with a gang, which could have led to his demise. Manuel advises Mark to visit the club to find more clues. Although Mark doesn't trust Manuel, he decides to head to the club. Unbeknownst to him, Manuel secretly orders one of his men to eliminate Mark. In the next scene, Mark arrives at the club late at night. As soon as he enters, he shuts off the music, drawing everyone's attention. The room is filled with gangsters, and Mark demands to know what they know about his brother. Instead of answering, the gangsters pull guns on him and order him to leave. A fierce fight breaks out, with Mark overpowering and taking down each gangster. He grabs one of them, desperately asking for information about Nick. Just then, 3 men sent by Manuel burst in and start shooting at Mark, but he manages to dodge the bullets and escape. As soon as Mark gets away, the gangsters call Manuel, informing him that Mark has escaped. Enraged, Manuel orders them to target Mark's mother. His men rush to Mark's house and break in, guns ready. They fire at the bed where they expect to find her sleeping, only to discover that the bed is empty and dummy puppy is lying there. Mark's mother is now staying at his ex-wife Akila's house, where she's visibly shaken. Akila tries to comfort her, encouraging her to stay calm and relax. Mark's mother tearfully confides in Akila, expressing how much she misses her son, Nick, and how his loss created a rift between her and Mark. She tells Akila, "Only you truly understand my pain because you've also experienced the heartbreak of losing someone you loved." Meanwhile, Mark and his friend Wayland return home and immediately notice signs that Manuel's men had been there. Wayland warns Mark that his life is in serious danger, but Mark remains determined, declaring that he won't leave the island until he's eliminated every evil force. Wayland suggests that Mark visit Nora for more information, and Mark agrees. Mark goes to Nora's house, but she refuses to open the door. He then identifies himself as a police officer from Los Angeles, which prompts her to cautiously let him in. Mark explains his connection to Nick, mentioning his brother's death. Nora, visibly frightened, eventually trusts Mark and reveals everything she knows. She tells him that Manuel has trapped her on the island and confirms his role in Nick's death. In the next scene, Mark's friend, Wayland, arranges for Nora to be safely taken off the island without Mark's involvement. Wayland assures Nora that his team will escort her to safety. Meanwhile, Mark meets with Akila and his mother. Suddenly, Manuel's men arrive at the house. Mark quickly takes his mother and Aquila out the back door, trying to escape. As soon as Manuel's men enter, they begin chasing Mark and his friends. A brutal fight breaks out, with gunfire exchanged between them. Once again, Mark manages to overpower the attackers, forcing them to retreat. Elsewhere, Manuel receives the news that Nora has escaped. Enraged by her departure, he takes out his fury on the hotel manager, poisoning him and killing him in cold blood. Mark takes his mother and Aquila to his uncle's house, assuring them that they will be safe there. However, Aquila, feeling a strong sense of responsibility toward Mark, decides to leave with him, determined to support him in his mission. Meanwhile, Manuel's wife, Lisa, is deeply upset about Nora's escape. She grows increasingly worried about her own safety, knowing that her husband's criminal activities have put everyone around him in danger. Manuel, revealing the full extent of his power, admits that he is a major drug lord with the police from all over the world pursuing him. He warns that he cannot leave the island and orders his men to kill Mark at any cost. In the following scene, Mark and Aquila are waiting for Wayland as they prepare to take action against Manuel. After learning crucial information about Manuel's criminal activities from Nick's killer, Aquila becomes anxious and fearful, realizing that Mark could be in even greater danger and afraid she might lose him forever. Suddenly, Wayland's car arrives, and Mark finds him badly injured inside. Wayland apologizes to Mark, but before they can talk, Manuel's men show up and open fire on the car. Aquila is shot in the attack. Mark tries to fight back but fails as one of the men kidnaps Aquila. As Wayland takes his last breaths, he asks Mark to check his office PC, and with that, he dies. The next day, we see Manuel and Lisa holding Aquila captive in an unknown location, where they begin to torture her. Lisa is about to kill Aquila, but before she can, Aquila bravely says that Mark is strong and will never let them get away with this. Manuel responds, saying that he wants Mark to come to him so he can kill him himself. Meanwhile, Mark goes to the police station and informs them about Wayland's death. He tells them that he's now in charge and will make sure to bring Wayland's killers to justice. Mark checks Wayland's PC and discovers crucial evidence against Manuel. Filled with grief over his friend's death, Mark vows to stop Manuel once and for all. At that moment, two children approach Mark and tell him that they have seen Manuel. Mark praises the children for their bravery. Soon after, Phil arrives and tells Mark that both Nick and Wayland were like brothers to him. He offers his full support, ready to take any risk, even if Mark refuses. In the next scene, Manuel calls Mark, offering to free Aquila if he agrees to his demands. However, Mark refuses to go alone. Manuel then invites him to meet at Old Sugar Factory at 7 in the morning, and Mark agrees. The next day, Mark arrives at the place and confronts Manuel, who asks about Nora's whereabouts. Mark responds that before he tells him anything about Nora, he must first bring Aquila to him. Mark then calls Phil, who is searching Aquila, and tells him to bring her. Phil then manages to find her, and just as he begins to free her, Lisa appears and points a gun at them. Phil overpowers Lisa and kills her. While freeing Aquila, another person arrives, but despite her hands being tied, Aquila manages to fight back. Phil calls Mark to inform him that Aquila is safe. Mark smiles upon hearing the news, while Manuel grows increasingly agitated. In a desperate move, Manuel puts his wife on the phone, but Mark coldly tells him that she's dead. Enraged, Manuel attacks Mark, and after a brief struggle, Mark kills him with a dagger, just as Manuel had killed his brother Nick. The movie ends with Mark and Aquila sitting on the beach, reunited. Mark hands Aquila a drink, and they share a quiet moment together. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more interesting movie recaps.